Hello, it's Amy with Just a Little Ink. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and today I'd like to share with you a project that my Stamp Club ladies have done actually this month in October, and it's a cute idea, and I think it'll be something simple that you're going to want to create. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera and kind of share with you the things that we're doing. So it's this cute little box. I know in our September to December mini catalog, there's a box that's in the pages that shows kind of a tag creating kit that you could give away, but this is a way that you could gift just the tags for someone who maybe isn't going to make them and would just really enjoy the tags. My Stamp Club ladies choose a stamp set bundle group of products that we use for 2 months in a row, and I create projects and then I mail them out to them. And so this month and next month we're using the pattern tags dies. They're those cute, very detailed, 3 of them are very detailed dies, and then also the Christmas Words Collage Hybrid Embossing Folder. And I'm not going to share too much on this one. It's a hybrid embossing folder, so it's a folder that runs through and gives texture, but then it also has a coordinating die that sets into here that then will cut out. I'll just pull out one that I've done that'll pull the greetings, and this one says Merry Christmas. A little hard to see in my lighting, but and so you get a whole sheet of them that way. And anyway, so fun stuff. But what I want to share with you, I'm going to kind of step through all the things they received. My Stamp Club members received in the mail a packet that had the paper cut for them to create the box, and then also a packet that had pieces for them to then cut because they had the dies. And so I'm not going to talk about this yet. We'll kind of go through this portion in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and set this out of the way. I always, when I'm making a box, do a template. And so that's what I have here. I will keep this. I'll stick it in an envelope and attach it to my instructions. And it just makes it so much easier. So that we can get going and I can reference this. And so that's part of why I've got it. You're going to have 2 pieces is what we're working with here. So let's see if I've got, I look good here. So I'm going to pull out my parts and pieces, and for some reason I'm missing my little inset. So we may have to step aside for just a moment so that I can cut this piece. So, pardon that intrusion, but we're going to make sure I've got my pieces. I need one that's cut at, this is the little inset. Okay. And it's just fractionally bigger than that, and then this needs to be 7 inches, which requires this blade to come out, and it'll have to come out anyway. So you're going to want your paper trimmer or our Simply Scored tool, which I really love, but for demonstrating purposes it's good to have your trimmer. So I'm using, oh that's why, because isn't that funny? I'm using a whole sheet of crumb cake cardstock. So And I need a piece that's 8 inches by 7.5. And so I'm going to come in and grab that 7.5 first because it's 11 inches across. 8.5 by 11 is a standard piece of our regular cardstock, or 8.5 by 11 cardstock. And then I'm going to trim off a 1/2 inch off that edge because I need it to only be 8 inches. Okay, so it leaves me these 2 pieces. If I'd have looked at my own instructions, I'd have known. So I don't need this. I'll put it aside for something else. And I'm going to set aside the large piece. That's my main box. This is my 3.5. Well, it's actually a little over 3.5. So I'm going to line it up here. That's probably why we had the other. Okay. And then this piece gets trimmed to 7 inches. And so it's going to give me just a little bit. So when you're done, what you aren't using from that piece of cardstock is this. And that would make a great inset, something you could use with your tag. So now when I did my instructions for my club ladies, I seem to always do things the hard way. And I had done measurements across, starting at one part and moving it across, turning it, and doing the same thing. And one of my gals figured out something simple, and so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to line up on this right side because when those shorter measurements, it's easier to use the measurements on the right side. I'm going to, let's see if my picture-in-picture works. I'm going to use my scoring blade, making sure it's not the dark one, but the light one. That's what scores. I'm going to score it 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to turn, and I'm going to score it 1/2 inch. And I'm going to turn, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to turn, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. Then, using the left side, because it's the bigger measurement, I am tongue-tied tonight, you're going to score at 2 inches. And then again, you're just going to keep twisting and score at 2 inches. 2 more times. Line it up, that 2-inch mark, turn. One last time, we're going to score at 2 inches. Okay, and before I put my paper trimmer away, I'm going to go ahead and score on this piece. This one, you're going to score at 2 inches, at 3.5 inches, and at 5 inches. And the beauty of that is that it's just a simpler measurement. So I thank you, Jenny. That is a great tip. We might pull it back out here when I get ready to do the little sleeve. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my bone folder. Yeah. Yes. I'll say, hopefully I still have it sitting right here. And I'm going to just fold over those pieces I've scored and get a nice crisp edge, and I'm going to do that all the way around. Okay, then I'm going to come into that 2-inch and do the same thing, and everything is coming in, so I'm not worried about what direction. I'm going all in the same direction, just toward me. We're making a pretty simple box. So now I've got everything kind of twisted and round, and I want to make sure that I've got the longer section in front of me, and so it helps to get a ruler. I happen to have my ruler sitting right here. I just want to make sure that this is the 8-inch width, and it is. And so then I'm going to grab out some scissors. You just need something that's sharp tipped. It helps. These are the paper snips that Stampin' Up! Had carried and that have been discontinued. and hopefully they get them back. And so I'm coming on this lower section here. I've got this little 1/2 inch mark. See if I can get a little closer to the camera. A little 1/2 inch mark, and then this section that comes into 2 inches, and I'm going to cut that portion off. Okay, and I've notched in just a little bit. That keeps things from kind of bunching up when you fold. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And when you've scored, it just makes it easier to see. So I'm going to set those aside. Then I want to do the exact same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to come with a snip. And again, I'm going to come this way. I should note that my Stamp Club ladies, and they are ladies that are in there at this point, meet on Zoom. And we've started that back when COVID happened and we could no longer meet in person for a time. And it just has continued just for the convenience factor. So on this other side, what I want to do is I want to come in and cut up to this center portion. So I'm going to come in the 2 inches on these measurements. So one here, one here. So these horizontal score lines, or in my case, they're going to look like vertical score lines. I'm going to cut up to the horizontal, not the 1/2 inch one. We're going to leave that. We want that little flap. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it opposite side and do the exact same thing. So you'll have to tell me in the comments if this is a project that you think you will find yourself doing. So then it's a simple manner of folding things over. These little flaps that we've cut that come over, you notice how I did that. It's all flat. These were the longer ends. I'm pulling it up, pushing it in, and folding it over. You could use Stampin' Seal Plus, which is a nice strong adhesive. You could also use tear and tape, but I find that I really like just using our multi-purpose liquid glue. And so that's what I'm going to choose to do. I'm going to fold this piece over, and I'm going to put just some adhesive. You don't need it on both of them, just one. And then I'm going to fold it over, hold it, get it nice and secure. Okay. Get it up in the camera. And then I want to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to fold one end over, and I'm going to glue this piece, this little flap, and then attach it on the end. So one end doesn't have glue, the other does. So hold it for just a second. Multi-purpose liquid glue really does adhere really pretty quick. So you can see I've got this piece overlapping, and then it's a matter of folding everything over and securing. And so, get my fly out of here. I tried to kill him earlier and he just doesn't want to go. So I'm going to fold this piece over and let that flap come down, and I'm going to hold it for just a second again so that that adhesive will adhere. You could choose to use tear and tape again. That's certainly an option. So I'm going to, on these little 1/2 inch flaps, just putting a little bit of glue. That just gives me a nice clean edge, these little flaps that this design creates. And so I'm going to put that over, and then it's a matter of folding these two over so that it all secures nice and tight. Okay. Hold it for just a few seconds, and I've got one last one. Okay, put my glue away for the moment. I'm going to fold this piece in. Really a pretty simple box. And so You can see that that's the base of my little box that's going to hold my tags. Now I want to grab out my, oh, and I don't either. We just did that. Now we've got this little inset piece. This piece was 7 inches by 3.5, and I'm going to start by folding it actually in half. I'm going to fold along that center score line, get a nice fold, okay? And then I'm going to take both pieces and each one on one side and then flip it over to get on the other side. And if I did everything the way I want, I end up with something that allows me some little separation between the two sides. It will fit in here. I need to trim, looks like my end's a little. So I'm going to take just a fraction off, maybe less than even an 1/8 inch, but at least an 1/8 of an inch on both sides, because it looks like it's just a teeny bit long. I think depending on your trimmer measurements, you might find you need just a little wiggle. And if you do, just again, grab out that paper trimmer and do that, and then it'll fit inside. See how that'll go? So to keep it, I want to put some adhesive on the inside. And so I'm going to go ahead and put just a little. Don't need the whole thing, because I'm going to then fold it over, get this center piece nice and glued in, and that allows me then to set this. I don't even really need to glue that portion in. You could, but I find that that works just fine. So at this point, then I can put in all of my little tags. And so this is where I want to kind of share my tags and kind of how I did them. So I'll get some of this stuff out of the way. So I'm going to set this kind of over here. So they made 2 each of all of the different tags designs that I had made. So for this particular one, let me pull out the ingredients here. So they had things I already cut, but then there was a matter of assembly. And so for this one, I'm going to kind of set these aside. So I used the velvet paper that's in our mini catalog. So it comes with a green, a red, and a white velvet, and it is the most elegant feeling of papers. And then I did a solid image. So remember that these come with 4 different dies. So I cut one of the solid ones, or just the stitched one, for every tag. Then I also did a carrier, what I'm referring to as a carrier. And I did this one out of the white felt because I'm doing one of each color. So then this would get glued down, and we can do a little of this. And all I did to glue down was just to dot. I don't need a lot of glue. You just need a little bit to keep things from shifting. And I'm not really too concerned about sharing about the folder at this stage because there's so many videos already out there of people sharing different techniques. I can share with you some things as we get going for coloring that I had found with experimenting worked real well. So then I can lay it onto the basic white solid tag. Okay. Give a nice press. I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive here. I know that it's going to come into the center piece, and so I'm just going to put some glue there. Lay this on top, and then you could use colored rhinestones if you had them, but you can make your own. And so you can use, I'm using a cherry cobbler Stampin' blend, and all you need to do is use your bullet tip. Be careful because you're going to use ink around it, but you know, it makes permanent colored rhinestones out of our basic rhinestone jewels. And so I'm only going to color those 3 at this point, but Isn't that neat that you can get your own, it's a little hard to see, you can get your own colored gems by using your Stampin' blends. And so what I did is I then chose one of my cherry cobbler greetings, and I just have a whole bunch of them because, again, I'm telling you, you cut them and you get a lot of extra greetings. And so I'm going to put this down with dimensionals. And let's pull one that's full. Maybe. Okay, there we go. I just need a couple of them. If they don't stick to me and stick to the paper. All right, so like so. And then stick it on the top of my card or of my tag. Then I can use my gems, which I need my take your pick tool. And I'm just grabbing a few of those. I'm going to put them in places that I think make sense. You certainly could choose to put them wherever you'd like. That's always the option, isn't it? And then stick one, I don't know, over here. So you're going to work on those. Then I would loop through. I have a 6-inch piece of twine. This is in the Basics Baker's Twine. I put my tails together and I fed it through my hole in the tag. From the back side then, I'm going to then loop that through those tags, or the tails, excuse me, through the loop. Well, I think I am. There we go. And then pull. Now, if you want a longer tail so that you can tie it onto something versus tape it, just make them longer. So there's tag 1, and I had done, again, a few of them. So we're going to set that one aside because you don't need to see me make another one. Then I made from the white velvet, I cut the poinsettias, and then I did a real red solid one to then glue again. You don't need to watch me do that. Then we attached from that one, so I'm going to set these together. We did a bow, which comes again in that same die set. You get all the things in one die to make this bow. And my suggestion is that when you cut it, you go ahead and assemble it because this little knot that goes with the bow could get easily lost. So that then would get glued on the front. And I would then pull from my white cards, or my white greetings, just something. I cut my little my little piece of trim. This is from the Christmas Traditions bundle, well, suite. And I cut it in half so then I could lay it on top and set off that piece of white. And so that's how I did those. I'm going to set those here. Then I did the red ones, and the red ones are so fun. So the red ones, let me get this out of the way. So when you cut your pines tag, you left with pine fronds, boughs that come out. And so this one was done the same way, glued the red to the white, and then I took a couple of those fronds, boughs, and put them on the front. And I did cut a carrier piece out of the red so that it kind of is more elegant. And then I took white, and this one I will try to share with you kind of how I did this. So let's see, let's find one that's gonna lay on the front of here nicely. Maybe. Well, we'll try this. So if I kept a piece of paper, it would be helpful. Well, we're just going to make best with what we've got. So I'm going to use my scrap piece here. easy way to get color in. You can choose to color it with your blends, which is what I've done here. It's tricky, it's a little messy, it's not as clean. The other great option you have is to use your brayer, your Stampin' Up! Brayer, which looks like this, and your stamp pad. And I'm using a shaded spruce stamp pad, so I'm going to open it up. This is done, this is white willow cardstock. I cut them in 6x6 pieces, put them into that folder, die cut them, and this is how they come out. So then one of the best tips I'd found for coloring that solid section was to then roll your brayer across. We'll see how messy I can get this. Okay, and then don't push hard. The idea is to let the brayer do the layering and let it color the sections that you are raised. And so if you've got a light hand, you can go across this without getting too much ink. Now it's not going to be completely white in sections, but it does do a really good job. And that's really what I found was best. I'm going to go ahead and just set this over here. That's really what worked the best for me in coloring to get that solid image to pop. And then I would lay it on the front with those pine pieces coming over. So kind of give you a difference of how these would look versus using my Stampin' blends. One's darker, but it's a little harder to keep it within that raised area. And so I'm going to set that aside. Okay, I'm going to get my stamp pad out of the way. So that's those. So those would be 6 of the tags. And then I'm going to quickly kind of talk through, let me get this out of the way. I'm going to quickly talk through the rest of them. So the rest of what they received were parts and pieces to make some that were from the Jolly Delivery suite of products. And so those were really pretty simple. And I'm using some of the red and white twisted or comboed twine. So I cut pieces of the cards or of the designer series paper that would fit from the houses. And so there's 2 sheets that look like that. And I used garden green on the back. I did a garden green carrier. So super simple. Again, just a piece of real red from the, let me make sure I have the right name here, from the Christmas Words Collage die and hybrid embossing folder. So I did 2 of those. Then we did 2 of these. So this is just from the envelopes paper from that same bundle, same paper, and used the white, white willow. And this one I actually inked on the folder before I die cut and embossed. And that comes out where just the outlines then will show. And so it's more consistent of a coloring. So those are here. And then the last ones, silly fly, I used Pool Party. That's the colors that were in the paper. And the garden green with the stripes. And this one I fussy cut the card, but there are ephemera pieces in this designer series paper stack. It's a specialty designer series papers from the Jolly Delivery, and it is so cute. And so that was the here. And so now I can then put all of my tags, kind of share with you kind of how this works. I can stick them all in. You could make obviously more. So I'm going to stick them in here, decide which ones I want on top. But you can see how they fit, how nice that is. So then, I'm going to get this out of the way. I've got this piece of window sheet. And my window sheet, I found you can put it and I didn't bring my instructions, which doesn't help anything. So hold on here. Gotta grab some of this out of the way. I'm gonna grab my paper trimmer because I want to get my pieces. And so give me just a second to go and grab those instructions. So, if I'm looking at my instructions, my window sheet is cut at, let's see here, 10.5 by, my guessing is 4. Is that correct? Yes, by 4. So, with the 10.5 inch section up against the rail, I want to score at 2 inches, and I don't want to use the cutting blade. Cut with the, or score with the trimmer, with the scoring blade, at 2 inches, 3.5 inches, 7 inches, which means we do need to open this up, and then again at 8.5. Really no way around doing them that way. This just kind of keeps those in place, so you're not going to lose them out. And so what I found is it's a challenge to see it, but do your best to fold it along those score lines. Use your fingers, and then keep going. I've got 2 more to fold. And they're clear, and they sometimes aren't the easiest to see. So again, do your best, get some good lighting. Just found that it's just easier to crease them first. So then it'll set on top of my little box with all my tags inside there. And then I can just use a little bit of glue on the underside. You could use, again, tear and tape, but I just found that if I did 1 line of glue on one piece and then scooshed a little bit here, that would allow me then to get my cover for my tags. And so then I had given them a piece of ribbon. This is from the Turtley Cute, or I think it's Turtley Cute, Turtley something, the Turtle suite of products. And it's the Shaded Spruce and Soft Seafoam 1/2 inch ribbon, and I cut a 20 inch piece. And so whichever side you'd really rather it was, I'm coming so that this is folded around this way, and I want to take it in the opposite direction. And so I'm going to pull it up and then tie it in a bow. You could certainly, well, I tied it in a knot. You could probably tie it in a bow, but I found it was easier to do it this way. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to grab out, if I brought them here, I don't think I have them on my table, my tweezers, which work so well when you have them, but we'll have to see what I did with them. So I'm just going to come, put my finger in the center here, and tie my knot. And the nice thing is this will slide off. It doesn't have to get undone and not be able to be redone when you gift it. So your recipient can have a pretty looking container that they don't even need to ruin it. So I'm going to cut at an angle the end, so you have a little excess there. And what a great little gift. So I'm going to flip back to my camera. Thanks again for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would so appreciate it. Please like, share, comment, and share with me your projects. I'd love to see what you do. I do have a website, just a little link at .stampinup.net, and I also have a blog, justalittleinc.com. And so thanks again. Until next time, have a great day.